Now we can clap. Now, we all right. Good job, all right. Superintendent, turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Milrick. Members of the board, tonight's meeting is really a specially called meeting for a number of purposes, but all related to the tax ratification election that was recently held. So we have a number of things on the agenda this evening related to that. Certainly canvassing the election results and formally going through that process, but also two short pieces of business, but very important, related to the TRE. One being the compensation package and the budget that is now a reflection of the results of the TRE, and then also moving forward with the actions in our strategic plan related to facility planning for the future. So those are the things on our agenda this evening. So our first order of business, I'd like to ask Dr. Bennett to come up and review our architect selection process. As you know, we've entered into an RFQ for architectural services for the bond planning or facility planning process. So Dr. Bennett.
Yes, I appreciate that. And one thing I do want to mention is the architect selection process and what we're doing here with considering our facilities and looking at what we're doing here for the future plan for growth is something that we've been working on for quite some time. If you recall our strategic planning process nearly a year and a half ago, one of those strategic planning goals related to facilities and related to growth. And so this is just an extension of that in terms of the long-term planning that we're doing. When we plan for growth, it's not something you can just wake up and start doing. It's something you have to plan for over a very long period of time. And so part of that process will be our architect selection process. I give you just a few details here on our posting of our RFQ back on July 15th. We posted it in the Herald Democrat and also on our website. Our deadline for the RFQ process to select architectural services to do a variety of things from design, estimated services, scope and development planning, all the way through to the project process as well. August 2nd, as I mentioned, was our deadline. We asked for those interested firms to provide us with a letter of interest, their qualifications, also bond planning experience, educational projects experience, and then references. So we gathered a team together, around 7 individuals that had experience from not only the RFQ side, or the purchasing side, all through the building project side, to review the selections that provided us with a proposal. We had a 3-step process, or actually we had a 3-phase process. It is a 1-step process to the RFQ, but we had a 3-phase process when we sat down and started looking at the proposals. What we did is we tried to narrow it down to those firms that best fit what we were looking for on the bond planning side and also the educational project side, and then narrow it down to the firms that would reflect what we were looking to do in the future. After we reviewed and narrowed down to 3 finalists, then we started grading out in a rubric type form. Everything is all quantifiable, where we set figures or values to everything from the bond planning experience, what we saw in the bond planning side, also the educational project side. We set specific figures on how well we felt like they graded out the firms, that the top 3 firms. Also, the project personnel that they had engaged in the project that we would have them working on, and then the references, what we call around references, not only the references that we had on paper, but we also called references that were off paper. Those other groups that we know had already worked with some of the firms or worked with firms in the past. So as we went through that process, we determined that VLK Architects was our top selection. They stood out based on their ability to engage communities in the long-term planning process. That was something that was a bright shining star whenever we not only looked at the information they provided, but also called around to references as well. They're able to build trust among all stakeholders within the community, and then implementing a communication plan that casts that district vision for the future, and also demonstrating unique designs and functional facilities for us. We have VLK representatives here tonight I'd like to introduce. We have Lisa Vardaman here on my left. She's the principal there at VLK Architects. We also have Ross Rivers here, Senior Associate Project Director from VLK, and then Clinton Shiver, Project Director. So we're very excited that they came out tonight. Some of the other things that we asked them to provide to us are things that would exemplify their qualities of excellence. Here's what we saw also through the proposal process and what they agree are some of their strong points, and that will be developing strong relationships. That's very important, particularly in the early phase as you're planning and working with community groups. Their involvement in education, in educational facilities, and involvement in the educational sector is very important. That's one of their strong points. Commitment to excellence and innovation. You can see that not only from their designs, but also what they stand by. The collaboration, we talked about that, integrity and trust as well. I also showed you just a few designs that they have, and I have additional information that I'll set up here. We only have a couple of brochures that we actually looked at as a team to review, and so feel free to pass that around. You can see some of the designs and some of the projects that they've worked on in the past. Any questions?
Any questions? I have a couple.
Yes. Go ahead.
I'll try to word them correctly when I get through this process once at the college, so I just need to understand. So we looked at a number of companies. What I understand, every company brings certain things to the table, it's resource and capacity and scope. This will be kind of the lawn part and building part. Can you kind of put in some scope of capacity for BLK with the other two companies that you've spoken to us?
Sure.
You've told us about one of them having some history and just some comment along that line.
Right.
Very spring.
I think you've nailed it. The importance when you select an architect is a group that can come in and can help you with planning, and not only the short-term planning, what are we going to do 30 days from now, what do we do 6 months from now, a year from now, and planning for that growth. They have to understand not only one thing that we realized quickly with BLK is their ability to come in and assess your current situation, assess not only from the facility side, but also the demographic side. The ability to pull together your stakeholders, the many different stakeholders that you work with in your community, and to build trust among that group, to be able to set out a communication plan, because you have to be able to communicate not only your current condition, but where you want to head in the future, and I think they showed that they're able to do that. And when you start talking to some of the references, because it's very important, we can see what they have on paper, but when you talk to references and talk to superintendents and talk to construction managers that actually work with the individuals that you see here, and it was amazing, the great recommendations that they gave. Once again, I said we looked at on paper and off paper as well. And some of the things that we heard were exactly what we saw in print, and that's their ability to build trust among their stakeholders, cast that communication plan, that vision of where you want to look at and where you want to head in the future, and then building facilities that are innovative, that not only look wonderful, but are functional for what you want. And so we see that, we saw that in BLK, and we're very excited they're here with us tonight.
And the budget process, I guess, the budget process that you've seen with them is strong, and they have the capacity to give us the best possible, down to the half cent information that we're going to want.
They're going to commit to all that here tonight. See, they're shaking their head and they're saying yes. One thing that we did look at is is how well that they stuck to the budget that was projected for projects that they were working on. And so we could see that.
And the front end of the costing was good?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
I know there's reasons for this, but I just got to go ahead and ask it. I was at the Braswell campus in Denton this weekend. I had the opportunity to talk to some people, and I know we're having challenges with getting that done, finished over there on budget, on time, and all of that. We have a little comment about that.
Sure.
Dr. Bennett, if I might.
Oh, all right.
I'm probably uniquely qualified to talk about that campus because I had the great fortune of being part of the planning team and all the way from 3 years ago with vision and direction and community work and all along with BLK. It's true, they're struggling with timelines on that campus and on their project. What is not in everyone's current memory, but I guarantee is in BLK's team's memory and Balfour Construction, their memory, is the 150 plus days of rain that they experienced in that project. I can tell you that throughout the planning process that BLK engaged the community in, there was a constant high degree of attention on what the leadership team from the school district said was their vision for the project, and what the community together in their community forums said was the vision for the project, and then carrying out that vision in a way that accounted for acts of God, if you will, and then redoubled efforts to deliver. And when it became clear that a variation in the schedule was necessary, then the entire team came back together, and they were very committed to meeting the needs of the district. So I think that that's valid, and it's a good question, and it's something we have to consider. Certainly things that are within their control, they accounted for very well.
That's why I didn't tell you I was going over there. But thank you for that answer. Good job, you were involved. It looks beautiful, and I know it's coming together very well, but thank you for that. I think we're going to see here, but it's a very big decision for the board. Related to timelines and negotiations, as one builds a building, you go through periods of time where you go through the phases that will be estimated and budgeted for us. Will we be negotiating aggressively more of a flat fee, or do we get charged by every event that happens? Like, give me a sense of how that's going to play out once you, I know you have to enter into negotiation, but give us a sense of how it's going to play out.
That is exactly what we'll do. We'll be negotiating over the next, probably 3 weeks, we'll be negotiating those contracted fees. And when we do that, then we'll bring back to the board that contract and what all. So I haven't stepped off into doing that right now, so I wouldn't be able to tell you exactly what we'll be doing, but.
I can help out with that.
Okay,
So our process from here will be to negotiate certainly as flat a fee, very flat fee.
But that's a half cent.
So no, our process will be to negotiate that fee and then immediately get started with the project. What I know about Ms. Mardeman and her team is that they have the credibility and the experience to bring us a high degree of value. And part of our initial conversations to this point have been about the importance of coming in under budget on time, and that'll be part of our conversation as it already has been.
I know that those pieces become challenges, so if we get that right in the front, it'll be good. And then if we have a good plan, we can avoid change orders that will hurt us as well. Under budget, on time, all of that will be high priority. Yes.
You had mentioned that one of the top bullet points was the ability to engage communities in long-term planning for growth. I'm assuming everyone said that. So what stood out as, this is the wow factor of what this group did versus others?
I think if you read in there, I'm sorry, we didn't have enough copies to provide you, everyone a copy, but if you read in there their work with Lido and what they did there in terms of going into the community and working with all the different types of stakeholders and making sure that they planned with the community values in mind, what the community capacity would be, on what, in terms of building out, what the community would want reflected and what they can do. But also including everybody within that process. When I talked to the superintendent there at that district, and then one comment that he made was how they will be there, and they will be there all the time. They will be there beside you every step of the way. And they will have attention to detail. They will work with you in every area possible so that they want to make sure that their success is your success. And so, and I think that's very important. You can plan and you can do a lot of things, but if you don't make it over the hump to get where you need to be so that you can start building and start preparing for the growth, you got to get there first. And what I could see in that is the work that they did, at least with Alito. They were able to do that and be successful in an area that maybe hadn't been successful before. And then to see that district, I think Alito has been with DLK even after that for around 8 years and worked at DLK. It's what I saw through their experience just with Alito, but many other districts that they have worked with, help me.
If I may, Dr. Bennett,
Yes.
one more time. What stood out for me, and again, this is from personal experience with this company, they have a very successful track record listening to communities and what their needs are and galvanizing those ideas and thoughts around action toward the future. A number of the districts that they've worked in either have a long history of skepticism, questions about the future and potential bond planning, or they're such diverse communities, such as Denton, working with people that live in 10 plus cities that the district serves, and geographically, many different opinions and ideas. And they were able to bring that together, in my experience. So they also have a wow factor for them is their ability to work with individual construction companies and demographers. Templeton Demographics, the company that we use, they have long-standing relationships with those two companies, or with Templeton and with construction companies. That helps them in the planning process and deliver what we ask for. So those experiences stood out for me as wow factors.
Great. Anything else?
Well, just from a bond planning perspective,
Right.
Are we at a point early enough in the stage or to have how soon can we have a bond package with renderings and everything for the community to look at and do the involvement with the community and do the promotion within the community? Could we do it in May?
Not Monday, but May.
So, Mr. Wilson, that's a good question, because that was also part of our consideration in selecting a company to bring you that could deliver on what we were asking. As you know, we had our TRE and we waited until we were able to accomplish that. Between now and December, we will be working on community engagement and conversation in the community about what our wishes are for our future. And so we'll put our citizens committee back together. We will share demographic forecasts and enrollment forecasts for the future. We'll pull our facility report back out, and then as the administrative team, we will provide guidance on the educational program that we want for the future. That committee will then make some decisions and recommendations to bring back to you, so that in January we make a decision on moving forward. And that's when renderings would come out and we would solidify around certain projects in order to go to the election.
So they have, you have a team that can help our committee and take those actions, because I mean, if we don't get past the bond, it's all at this point.
That's essentially the first critical step once we act.
So, right, so this agenda item later to enter the negotiations and the process is really centered around the facility study and planning to move us toward the election.
Right.
And then that would determine the next outcomes.
And I can also tell you, a lot of things we've already done through strategic planning process, through the demographic studies that we've had, the facility studies, the two that we've had, is going to be greatly beneficial to speed us up in the process.
Good.
Those deliverables should help us in the negotiating of price point, I would imagine.
I completely agree.
Gotta get this all out in public.
Good story.
Any other questions at this time? Any other comments?
No, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Norwood. Next item on the agenda is again in relation to our TRE, our budget and our salary study and our salary schedule in light of the results of the TRE. So, Dr. Bennett.
Just want to give you a quick update now that we've had a successful TRE. One thing that you're going to be looking at here in the next few weeks is we're going to move into recalculating our collection from maintenance operations and interest and seeking funds, because obviously now that we passed TRE, we have a shift in funding over the operating side, and that's going to impact more than anything else revenue. So we're going to have to change recalculate those financial figures and then amend the budget coming up on September 19th. We'll work on a budget amendment and adjust the M&O and INS changes, increase M&O revenue after passing the TRA. So that's what you're going to look at, so you can change. You can see so much of the red before that you saw before. Now we have the revenue that makes that up, so that's a good thing. So we're going to bring that to you here in the next few weeks.
Our action, our planning, our budget planning was framed by the study we do at TASB, which is not just a straight line action. They give us a number of strategies that we're going to take. And I don't get into every detail, but I guess we'll be explaining that to our employees.
Yes, and that excellent segue. Jill O'Neill is going to come down and talk a little bit about the
We don't
salary
practice
schedule.
this stuff, I promise.
Really don't.
The first thing that I'd like to say is how appreciative our employees are to the taxpayers and the board for helping pass the TRE. We've heard so much positive from all of our employees, and we're very appreciative of that. If you look up on the screen, you'll see that is our proposed salary hiring schedule for this school year. The second column there is last year's hiring schedule. So last year, a starting teacher in Sherman ISD made $43,000, and you can see that this year, a starting teacher in Sherman ISD is going to make $46,000. That is going to be great for us. It's going to be great in recruiting and retaining our teachers. A couple of other things that I want to point out is that in Sherman ISD last year, our employees received a 3% pay raise of their current pay. This year, we're giving them a midpoint raise. It's 3% of midpoint. Last year, they received 2% of their salary. This year, it's 3% of midpoint. That being said, all of our teachers received a greater raise this year than they did in years past. Last year, our highest paid teacher received a $1,230 raise, and this year, that highest paid teacher is going to receive a $1,600 raise. Something else I'd like to point out, if you look at our salary, our hiring schedule, we are going to have some teachers that are going to make more than a 3% pay raise. Because a starting teacher last year in Sherman ISD made $43,000. And that teacher now is a teacher with 1 year experience. If we only gave them a 3% raise of their midpoint, they would be making less than somebody that we're hiring in with 1 year experience. So our teachers with 1 year of experience last year made $43,000 because they started. And this year they'll make $46,200. So those teachers will receive a $3,200 pay raise. A couple other things that I'd like to point out. Our pay raises for teachers range from $1,600 to $3,200. And I would like to remind you that last year in the spring, when the TASB came in and they reviewed our salary structure, they looked at all of our employees. They looked at their payrolls, their pay grades, and they looked at the competitive market rate. They looked at districts south of us to see how they're paying, because we want to be competitive with those districts, because those are the people that we're really trying to recruit and trying to get to our district. So TASB did look at all of our pay structures, made recommendations. Some employees may receive a bit more than a 3% based on recommendations from TASB. Their employees will receive their change in their September paycheck. It will go back and make up the difference for August for our August starts and July and August for our July starts. So our employees in September will receive a pretty big bump, but then from October on, it'll go back down to a normal rate. Tomorrow, our communications team is sending out a frequently asked questions. There's probably 3.5 pages of questions that we've already received. We have examples on there so that if you're looking at an hourly employee, our hourly employees will be able to figure out how to look at 3%, and our employees that pay their daily rate will also have examples. We've also made quite a few adjustments to our stipends to make sure that we're competitive especially with our districts to the south of us. But I would just like to remind you that this is something we're going to have to look at every year. It's not a one-time fix. We absolutely want to be competitive now and in years to come. So again, thank you for your support, and thanks to the voters of Sherman ISD for passing that TRE.
Thank you. I appreciate the effort. I just point everybody, remember that TASB got pretty complex at our request about recruitment and retention, and communicating this will be important. So it's not just a simple race situation, but we're positioned in the district in a very competitive way. So let's stand up. So appreciate the effort.
So I would just like to call the board's attention to the individualized nature of all of this work. So When we got the salary report from TASB, as you all saw, it was a thick document, talked about every pay grade and every position and all of that. What's important to know and to reinforce Ms. O'Neill and the work in HR is that it's not about a number and a pay grade and a salary, it's about an individual person. And they are going and have been and will continue to, over the next couple of weeks, go person by person to implement this salary plan. Some of it can be done electronically, but 40 or 50% of it is each individual person to make sure that the salary structure is applied equitably and fairly. So I want to commend you guys because the work is only beginning for your team in order to get this information.
It's exciting work though, we're happy to do it.
That's right.
Thank you. Any other questions on that? Everybody's good?
Are stipends included in the retirement calculation?
I'm sorry,
Are stipends included in the retirement calculation?
retirement, no.
But
It's all based on daily rate.
Okay.
But by moving them to a daily rate, by phasing some stipends out and adjusting pay,
Some stipends are gonna be phased out. For example, myself, I currently receive a $1,500 stipend for having my master's degree. That will be rolled into my pay. That money's not going away, but I'll no longer receive that stipend. So that will increase my daily rate, so that when I go to retire, that will.
Well, and that's, the point is to keep our older employees happy. So when they get.
Experience.
He's the financial advisor.
Jill and I have a great relationship. She understands.
Are you setting up?
Exactly. I mean, the whole point is we want to keep our more experienced teachers happy in here, so they'll retire here. And that's the point of that question. How do are we doing the right things to keep them here? Because I hate to lose a 10-year experienced teacher. If they've been here 10 years, then they're a quality teacher. We don't want to see them go anywhere.
Absolutely. And I'll also tell you that with Dr. Excel, we're currently looking at a couple of different ways to retain our current teachers. We're looking at some investment opportunities, some different things that we can do to think outside the box to keep and retain those teachers.
Anything else? Next.
Next is the canvassing of the TRE, tax certification election. And as you know, a little bit of background on this, on June 2nd, you guys adopted a tax rate of 117 and INS of 27 cents, total tax rate of $1.44, and that was pending TRE approval of the voters. That then moved us into a situation to call a TRE. On June 20th, the board called the TRE for August 27th, early voting started on August 10th, and ran through the 23rd. So, as the applause was earlier, it was a successful TRE. We had 1,626 ballots that were cast for the SISD TRE. And 177 votes were cast in early voting by mail, 1,200 were cast in early voting, and then 249 were cast on the actual election day. 1,487 ballots were cast were in favor of the TRE. 86 votes were cast for in early voting by mail. 1,161 were cast for in early voting, and 240 were cast for on election day. We had 139 ballots that were cast against or not in favor of the TRE. 91 votes were cast against in early voting. 39 were cast against or actually 91 were cast against in early voting by mail. 39 were cast against in early voting, and 9 were cast against on the actual election day. So there's your summary of the results. Here you see the Sherman ISD tax ratification election canvass report from Dina Patterson, who is the Grayson County election administrator, which details what I just read to you on the previous page. This was also posted in your board packet and was signed off on or certified on 9/2 of 2016.
Do I have a move on the recommendation?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Written move that the returns of the August 27, 2016 tax ratification election have been duly canvassed by the Board of Trustees and their being cast at said election a total of 1,626 votes, resulting in the following: 1,487 for, 1,139 against. It is therefore found and declared and so ordered by the Board of Trustees of Sherman Independent School District that the above tax ratification election was duly called, that notice of said election was duly posted, and that said election was held in accordance with the law, and that at said election the TRE passed by the majority of the voters. And Brad, you seconded that?
Yes, sir.
All right. Any questions, concerns? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, nay? It's 3-1. Awesome, thank you very
Thanks
much.
so much.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it too.
And just one more opportunity to thank our citizens community that has participated in the process, and the leadership of our communications team, and all of our teachers that participated, everyone that participated in the election, for exercising the right to vote.
And I'll say, the immediate impact our teachers want to see because of the action of our citizens is incredible.
Okay, so next item on the agenda is a request to approve that contract for negotiation for the architectural services.
Yes, and in the action item, and this just briefs you on where we are in terms of the laws that relates to procuring architectural services, which we are on. Number one, we first were to select the most highly qualified provider of those services on the basis of demonstrated competence and qualifications, which we did through the RFQ process. And now we would like to attempt to negotiate with that provider, being BOK, a contract at a fair and reasonable price. I mentioned to you the reasons we talked about selecting BOK architects out of 11 other architect firms. We talked about their qualities of excellence, what they exemplified through the RFQ process. So it is the administrative recommendation that the Sherman ISD Board of Trustees approve entering into contract negotiations with BOK Architects to perform architectural services pursuant to Texas Governmental Code, Chapter 2254.
Recommendation, we have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Questions, concerns? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed, nay?
Thank you so much.
At this point in time, the board will go into closed session for purposes that were posted. Do I have a motion to go to closed?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Go to closed session, and
And we'll also move back to our conference room for that, and then open up the rest of the meeting when we're finished with closed.
finish with open back
So
there.
we'll be coming back after.
No, we'll remain back there in the conference room for the team meeting training. And we'll post notice out here in case anyone wants to join.
Thank you.
Thank you.